Welcome. We will look at tools and techniques, material selection, and a selection of classic and new flies. We hope these videos help you become a better tyer.
We're going to tie Squirmy Wormy today. If you're not familiar with this material, it's basically a silicone material, and it comes from several manufacturers. This is the Spirit River packaging, and this is the Caster's Squirmito, which is the original, I guess, Squirmy Wormy. And we're going to tie in this worm tan color. I like this Caster's a little better. There's a little more in each package, and it seems like the strands are a little bit thicker, a little bit more substantial. As you might be able to see, the red is the Spirit River, and this is the Caster's Squirmito material. I'm going to tie this on a standard jig hook, and we're going to put a bead on it. I'm using a 3mm countersunk bead. This one, slotted bead won't work for this particular design. It's got to be a countersunk. And I want to put the bead on backwards, which means I want to put the point of the hook in the larger countersunk hole. I would normally put the point of the hook in the smaller hole. This is one of a set of 3 of bead pliers. They have little indentations at the tip to pick up the beads, and I've found them kind of helpful. And so now we're going to seat this hook in the vise, again, standard nymph hook. And I want to slide the bead back to the back for the first part of this. Let me get a good background here for you. So I'm going to take this little piece that I had left from the last tie, and I'm going to use it first. Let me start the thread. This thread is a 6/0 classic wax thread from Simperfly. And I found on these that the thread makes a lot of difference. You want to use a flat thread, which this is. A round thread seems to cut this Squirmy Wormy material, which is one of the problems in tying that you have to figure out, is how not to cut the material. I'm going to wrap back 1/4 inch, and then I'm just going to spiral back to the front. And I want to leave space for a head, maybe 1 eye length. And then I'm going to take the little piece of squirmy material, and I'm going to hold it so I've got about 1 inch in front. Now, the second problem with this material is it wants to move around, wants to wrap around the hook. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take 2 wraps right in the same place, and then I'm going to take a wrap around the shank of the hook in front of the material, and 2 wraps are in front, and then 2 wraps in back. And you'll notice that there's an indentation here where I've wrapped the thread, but I'm not cutting the material. And then I'm going to pull on the material. I don't want to initially pull it all that much, and I want to take some more kind of gentle wraps around it. And as I move back away from the front, I'm going to increase my pull on the material and wrap down a little harder. And once I get back another 1/4 inch or to the end of where I started my thread initially, I'm going to cut off what's left, and then I'm going to wrap back to where I started. And I'm going to push the bead back up over the material. Now, depending on the bead, this is a 3mm bead. You can see it's plenty of space inside that countersink to allow me to push it back up. If the bead gets stuck, try a larger bead if you can't get it all the way up. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap I'm going to whip finish the front part of the fly. One of the things that just suggestions on whip finishing, is I started gripping the tube of my bobbin holder. And the reason I grip the tube of my bobbin holder is that tends to make the rest of my hand fall in place so I can let go with those two fingers. And so what I'll do is I'll set up the whip finish, and then if I need to reach in and pull back, I'll be able to do it. And I'm in the habit of just doing a couple of 2 or 3 turn whip finishes like so, and then I'll just clip off and put the bead back. Now, notice that leaves the Squirmy Wormy material nicely on the top of the hook, and now I'm going to start the thread again right behind the bead, and this time I'm going to wrap all the way to the back, and then I'm going to come back forward just behind the bead. And if there's anything sticking up, I want to try to get it smooth. The smoother this part is, the better you're going to have, the better time you're going to have on the last part of this. And this can be a little tricky at first. The question is, I want to start this material right behind the bead. And what I figured out is if you push down and kind of pull back, it'll expose just a little tab of material. And this time, I want to wrap touching wraps with the material pulled back toward me until I get to just above the barb. And then I want to loosen my wraps and make a couple of gentle wraps over that Squirmy Wormy material. And then I'm going to come around the hook shank behind it twice. And the reason I'm loosening the wraps is that you can cut this material, and once that's done, then I'm going to wrap back up behind the bead. And if you cut this material in half, you won't have all these struggles with material. And you'll notice I've still got some pretty decent flex in it. Doesn't look like it's been cut. And I'm going to start this again the same way I did before. As soon as I have it started, I want to stretch it. And this is a place, again, where you want to do touching wraps. And the better job you do of getting this nice and even, the better this last part's going to look. I want to go right back almost to where I ended before and then come forward. And now to finish this out, I'm just going to take the squirmy material and wrap. If you have a rotary vise, I'm rolling it back toward the back. If you have a rotary vise, you might try doing this with the rotary vise. It works pretty well. And then once I get back behind the bead, I'm going to stretch it and hold it straight up and go over it 1, 2, 3 times, and then I'm going to pull it back and go around 3 times, pull it tight, and clip. And now I'm going to do a whip finish. And another whip finish. I have discovered I use clear lacquer, just like you would get at the hardware store, for a head cement. And if you want to put that on here, you can certainly do it. And there's a Squirmy Wormy in the tan worm color.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe for all our videos and tight lines.